commentary about astral projection or soul journeys of any sort in terms of the religious communities that really wish to adhere to something that's going to be congruent with their system of faith. They want to not violate or move into the domains of evil or the spiritually unhealthy aspects of what's going on. They have rules and regulations. They have guidelines that are intended to keep people from venturing into things that are not going to be worthwhile or might actually be damaging. So within a lot of those sorts of spiritual circles, there are people who say, oh, astral projection is of the devil, it's sin, it's going into the dark area, it's really not something that we should be doing. So I wanted to discuss that a little bit because a lot of the time when people are afraid to astral project, that's part of their fear, is the means, or they need to have those questions answered in order to know if this is even an okay domain to go into. I think these are very valid, and I think that a lot of these rules are kind of like guidelines to keep you out of trouble. Why not? Sounds good. So you do need to think that through and answer it. It's reasonable, it's wise. At the same time, you might want to consider that some of these means or these teachings, these guidelines are actually very limiting. And you might want to look at some of the source of them. For example, around 300 AD, a lot of the teachings of the New Testament were actually bastardized because they were extricated from the original texts that were written by the apostles and the disciples of Christ. And so some of those things were taken out because they weren't congruent with what the Catholic Church at the time wanted to convey to its people. In addition, they converted the original languages of the New Testament, which my understanding is part was in Aramaic, part of it was in Hebrew, part of it was in Greek. So as a consequence, they converted the original language that had been translated in different languages into an unattainable language, a language that wasn't understandable by the commoner, and therefore Latin. Well, maybe this is more detailed than you want, but what you want to gather from this is that why would the teachers of the people want to make teachings inaccessible? So, and this is documented, not just something made up by me or those of us that want to go into some sort of a ramming religion, because I love Christianity. I love what it teaches. It's very close to my way of thinking, and we'll get into that more. But it was contaminated because a certain set of leaders wanted power over the people and wanted to render the people powerless and only adhering to whatever they were given. They were not allowed to create their own enlightenment, and there was a whole enlightenment movement that occurred 1,000 years later. So you want to wonder about when the teachings you're receiving, the guidelines you're receiving, are coming from, and what are the motivators of the teachers that originated that thought. And then it got perpetuated because people began to feel, well, that's good guideline, that's healthy, that'll keep you safe. I won't venture outside of this safe domain. Okay, next, ready? What's interesting to me is before I even started studying shamanism and all of its aspects in different cultures, and started studying astral projection and all of the aspects of that soul journey process, I began to realize that every single official writing down through the last many millennium of written conversation, of verbal contextualization of our understanding and wisdom, even cave drawings, there has been traveling of the soul that has been documented, that is in every single religious literature, all of it. And in the context of each of those that you study, it's done in service of human nature. It's done for the well-being, the connection between the divinity of the human being to the divine source, as well as to the divinity of one human being to the divinity of another, to the spiritual aspect of all people, so that it was in service of the well-being and growth and evolution of humankind on a spiritual and practical, physical level. So it wasn't done to go off and conjure evil or to overcome something disastrous attitude and a belief of destruction. And it also wasn't about self-aggrandizing oneself over and above God and rendering God useless like a fallen angel that wanted to say, oh, I'm going to be bigger than God. It wasn't about that. It was about things that were profoundly to the benefit of humankind and relationship to God, to Source, to divinity. So that you can rest assured, and you need to do your own research on this, so you feel comfortable that astral projection has been present forever, and that in the documentation from the religious writers, it is in every single tradition, in every religious world, whether Judaism, Hinduism, Muslim, Christianity, ... Every single one. Of course, can I say that I've read every single religious document? No, I haven't. But I've done a lot of research in the, oh gosh, 50 years of research, because I'm older than that. So go do your research and find out that this astral projection is an invitation for you to be all of who you are, not less than who you are. And that you don't need to worry about your own divine religious points of view being violated. They might be expanded, they might be challenged, they might be looked at from very different perspectives, but they're not there to harm your spiritual growth, but enhance it. That's what this is all about. Okay, I'll talk to you later.